the whistle blowing.
From reaching trail to the Great March, from the aging ocean to the endless sea, from Fisherman's Row to Godcroft's, live from Studio A in PressCorps World Headquarters, this is Foxhole Flash, bringing you the latest news from across the Siva Valley War Zone.
Morning, afternoon, or evening. For the PressCorps, I'm Jeffrey Jennings, here in the 62nd conflict of the Foxhole War. It's day 322. We interrupt your scheduled programming because we have heard, for the first time here in the war, this conflict, sirens go off, Colonial sirens go off under the threat of a potential Warden rocket launch. Effective PressCorps rocket watch has now been elevated to imminent. Switch to that in the past few minutes here, and we have PressCorps' Colonial correspondent Everett reporting to us live from the Great March, and he'll give us a review of what has transpired in the past, I want to say about 15 to 20 minutes here. Everett, am I coming through? Can you hear me?
Yep, you're coming through just fine, and yeah, it's been a very quick 15, maybe even 10 minutes where the Colonials have scrambled, hearing reports of sirens from one location, thoughts of a possible nuke at another location, and then a massive attack on the Swan down in Great March. So I guess it's best if I start at the beginning of everything that happened. Let me actually find a nice bush to sit in. Here we are. So, about 15 minutes ago or so, there was a report of a lone warden riding the rivers south past the Baths in the Drowned Vale. They were picked off by some Colonial members. This lone warden had a radio backpack and was a high-ranking member of Warden Navy, though that last bit of info is a bit of speculation. Got a little bit lost in the detail because almost immediately after that, Fairmore, on the other side of the continent over in Lockmore, was attacked directly. It was a smoke satchel charge that took out the town hall and nothing else. Right. The next step after that, I want to say about like 2, maybe 3 minutes after that, there was alarms raised in that same region in Fairmore as a Warden landing ship with some barges and a construction vehicle on one of the barges was found on its way to Fairmore. That was pretty...
That's very interesting because the region has been seeing intense fighting at Mercy's Wish and across the river at West March. Lots of pushes up and down that northeastern sector, northeastern sector. Even storm cannon firings as well. But it seems that they had the confidence to begin pushing a CV, and I assume with respective materials, just waltzing into Fairmore. And I guess that was because perhaps they were counting on a rocket launch.
Yeah, that's the idea. So people in Fairmore were reporting rocket sirens, and that's where I pass information and where we are here at the imminent level of our rocket watch. Excuse me.
Okay.
So there were sirens in Fairmore. It seems that the landing ship was a backup plan for that. If the nuke did not land, if the rocket did not land, then there would be a landing ship to back it up. The sirens have not been reported there in quite some time because the Colonials' attention was whiplashed for a second time,
right,
down to the Swan in Great March.
Now that is very far away. That's about 2 away from Fairmore, and the Swan. That is the southernmost strategic point in the whole Siva Valley war zone. And but it is unique in that it holds the advanced ammo factory, which makes it a target. I guess the Colonials, were they expecting anyone to reach that far, the most rear point of the line?
It's been on the Colonials' mind for a long time, Jeff, and specifically because of the advanced ammo factory. Strategically, it's a kind of important point. It's one of the crossing zones for the river that goes down there, but it's so far south that any big army that comes down could be cut off and the Colonials would respond to. They're very worried about a nuke there because of that ammo factory. It's the only way to make certain highly specialized, heavy explosive weaponry. If they lose that, their next closest option would be in the middle of the map in Deadlands, Abandoned Ward.
Deadlands, my goodness, and that's something they currently, at this moment, don't hold. In fact, the Wardens making a successful push over the past several days, taking Liberation Point and the pits, forming a buffer. So the Colonials are going to be holding on to that as much as they can. Now, I believe you were in the Great March when you got in contact with me. What was the kind of the environment amongst the Colonials? What was the feeling of the Colonials as you hit closer to the story?
Urgency is probably the first word I'd use to describe. I wouldn't say dread. There, between the first rocket fear, I guess, that happened in the bats and everything that was going on in Fairmore on the other side, a lot of the veterans were on high alert and pretty ready to redeploy one way or another. In this case, just instead of redeploying from one zone or another, they went to a third zone. So a lot of the war veterans on this side were pretty on alert, is what I'd say.
How many?
There wasn't a lot of. Oh, I'm sorry. Go on.
No, that's okay. How many wardens were purported in the Swan sector?
Reported.
I'm sorry.
50 was the only.
How many warden actual individual troops were in Great March at the time of the Colonial awareness of their presence?
Right. So the report was 50, though we understand that might have been a radio or a Colonial on the radio just calling up a arbitrarily large number. When I arrived on scene, I did see about that many backpacks, however, but it was both Warden and Colonials. These would be abandoned backpacks from Colonials and Wardens dying in the battle. And a little more detail on that, actually. It was down in a small area south of the Swan that's known as Jack Field. It's not really used too often. It kind of dead ends in a small peninsula with the river there. But if the Wardens can sneak their way past there, it is a place where they can build up a base. And because it's so far south, it doesn't see regular activity. That's where we saw the Wardens this time, and that's where the Colonials responded.
One has to wonder what their entry point was, because this wasn't a pair just kind of hugging the edges. Maybe they were hugging the edges, but it had to have been. Would you guesstimate between 10 and 20 Wardens?
I'd say it was probably closer to the 20, maybe 25 side for the Wardens.
Any reports on, any conjecture on maybe if there was an outfit responsible? Or
None seen. The only one that's been, I guess, blamed, if you will, from the Colonial perspective, or taking responsibility from the Warden perspective, would be Warden Navy. However, they were more connected to the two rocket threats to the north of the map. As far as this Great March push, there doesn't seem to be any one Warden faction or clan that's been taking charge of responsibility. None has been seen or reported.
And do you know the approximate time frame of when these three kind of sightings happened? Did it happen within a 10-minute time frame, 20-minute time frame, or was it an hour?
The entire thing happened within a 10-minute time frame. It was very tight.
That has to be coordinated. That's what my intuition is telling me.
Without definite proof, I would speculate to say yes, that was absolutely coordinated. A landing ship landing in one sector with a large strike happening at another. If anything, it is a coordinated effort to confuse and disrupt the Colonials, making sure that they can't respond to both threats adequately, and hoping that one of the two threats would succeed in what their potential goals are. And on that note, the Swan, the town down here in Great March that was threatened, is still standing. There are no sirens. There was no rocket launch detected in this area.
Right.
So
we are still at imminent, not exchange, which means No rocket has been launched as of this current moment. That might change on a dime in the next hour or two, but we have reached the threshold, and that at least one Warden rocket. Can't say anything about the Colonials. We can't reveal that yet, or if we even have any information on that. But at least one Warden rocket is ready to fire if the coordinates are able to be transmitted. If sirens are being heard, we can confirm that the Wardens have at least one rocket ready to go. It does take 10 minutes, 10 uninterrupted minutes, for the coordinates to be transferred, which gives the Colonials actually a pretty good window to respond, which they did. And the blast radius of a rocket impact would be 80 meters, of which nothing can survive. Evacuation is your only means of survival. So the Colonials we'll wait and see, and the Wardens likely too, but the Colonials particularly are most likely going to be deciding amongst themselves on what they want to do in terms of their critical assets. A lot of materials and assets, force multipliers stored away in those precious warehouses, battle tanks, emplacements, dozens of emplacements, potentially in various places. The Colonials don't want to lose those assets, so whether they're going to go into private, individualized storage facilities away from the typical industrial clusters. The most obvious targets for a rocket attack would probably be Loftmeyer in the Heartlands, Silk Farms in Shackled Chasm, or the various advanced ammo factories. That is the most likely targets. We're not likely to see anything for either side. If they're going to launch a rocket, we are most likely not going to see anything near the front line, particularly if there's no industry. Very, very minuscule chance we're going to see a launch at a non-strategic target, but perhaps maybe say a cluster of 20 battle tanks, and then one side sees that and they decide to launch the rocket. That just doesn't seem economic, particularly if it should be noted that all of these rockets are one use only. Once, let's see, 2, 4, 6, 8. There's only 8 possible rockets, and all of them one use. So we're not likely to see any launches at a non-strategic target, at a non-industrial target. These are going to be used at something that has a long and lasting impact. Everett, do you have anything else for us here? I think we might go to another correspondent who might have more information for us. But do you have anything else?
Sure. Mm-hmm. I have one other thing on the strategic target. This is a pretty well-based fear, I think, for the Colonials. It's interesting that you bring up strategic targets. The one other one that Colonials have been on the watch for is in Faranac Coast, and that's not a major Logi hub, but the Wardens are rather well aware of the storm cannon battery that is set up in the Faranac Coast region. We saw action from that earlier in the war, devastating action. And
where exactly? If it's safe to reveal, where is that in Faranac?
It's within region, or I'm sorry, it's the storm cannons can reach any of the town halls in the Faranac Coast region.
See. Okay.
The exact details I'll leave for, if the people who own those storm cannons want to bring that public. But it's within reach of all of those town halls, and we saw evidence of that, I want to say about 100 days ago or so. That was a pretty significant operation. But that is another site for a nuclear attack, if you will.
Non-nuclear.
If I can use such a strong word.
Yeah, non-nuclear. Well, this is a common misconception, one in which even I find myself struggling to remember, to juke the habit. But the common slang term for these ballistic rockets is nuke. But it should be noted that these rockets are confirmed non-nuclear. They are only explosive, conventional warheads. These are non-nuclear. I make that distinction because there is a common misconception that the impact site of a rocket somehow becomes irradiated and cannot be traversed or can only be traversed with a gas mask. That is false. That is urban myth. The impact site of a rocket does get discolored to red, but it is non-nuclear. It is not irradiated. Immediately after the explosion, it is safe to traverse ground zero. You don't need a gas mask. I don't think a gas mask would keep you safe from radiation, regardless. You need a whole suit for that. But
Yeah.
yeah, but if you're just joining us, we have in the past. How long ago did this all come down to? 15 minutes?
I want to say about 15 minutes ago is when a lot of it ended, and that includes not just the Warden threat, about 20 to 25 Wardens that were attacking in Great March at the Swan, but also the Fairmore attack with a landing ship and construction vehicle. I do want to say that that threat is not imminent anymore. Fairmore, that attack has been thwarted one way or another.
Mm-hmm. Right. If you don't have anything else for us, I think we'll switch to our other correspondent here. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for doing this on a dime.
Yeah, no problem. Absolutely.
PressCorps Colonial correspondent Everett Way joining us here in the studio. Rather, not in the studio, but through transmission live from the Great March. Thank you. All right, well, I think we'll bring in our next correspondent in just a few moments, but I just want to make clear that we only went on the air once. Well, we had two minimum requirements before breaking and raising the alert level to the watch level to imminent and going live with this information, which is one. The wardens, and you can exchange these, you can flip them around, but the wardens were aware of, or rather, the wardens were openly sharing that they had a rocket available to them. And two, the second requirement is that the Colonials were aware of a Warden rocket being ready to fire. And you can switch those factions around to be interchangeable, because those are the two requirements necessary for the rocket watch level to be raised to the imminent status and us breaking and going live with that information. And because sirens were being heard in Fairmore, that is more than enough information. The Wardens clearly exposing that they have a rocket ready to launch, and the Colonials very much aware that they know that the Wardens have that, so that's why we went in. Regardless, I think we're going to go switch now to, sorry, I pulled you out of there, my fault, but we're now going to go to PressCorps Colonial correspondent Spots Blemish. Spots, what do you have for us here?
So, if you know me, I have friends on both sides. It's always a good thing to have, just in case in situations like this. I got confirmation that the main clan that was doing the nuke attempt was Warden Navy.
Okay, so you're saying that the outfit responsible for this rocket is the Warden Navy. What is your source on that?
Warden Navy Greatly.
So a member of the Warden Navy told you that themselves.
Yeah, I was discussing with him. He basically stated that, yeah, they were the people behind the, he was at the Swan attack, so most likely, by deduction, and most likely is them.
Mm-hmm. Well, that makes, every now and, particularly with something this big, there's a good amount of ego attached to it, and I completely understand that. Not surprised at all. So the Warden Navy claiming responsibility for that potential launch, as well as it would appear to be responsible for the leading the rocket site.
As well as that they stated that Fairmore and Mainsville were diversions.
Okay, that actually makes sense compared to what Everett and I were discussing earlier. So I guess our intuition was right there. It should be noted that the potential rocket sites available to the Wardens is an Endless Shore, Stone Cradle, Weathered Expanse, and Reaching Trail. So that is those are the 4 potential rocket sites. For the Colonials, it's Outlaws Bight, Great March, Westgate, and Pharaonic Coast. Those can change. That's not permanent by any means, but where the lines are currently, and where construction is, and where the sites are, and where the fighting is probably going to be, where the defense is going to be, those are the rocket sites for the respective nations here. So you can confirm that sometimes these outfits like to come out to us and claim these things, which is great. We appreciate the interaction. If you have information on any info regarding not just the rockets, but any stories at all, please stop by PressCorps World Headquarters through the Discord link below, and we'll see what we can do with that information. Go ahead.
As well as I got confirmation why the nuke attempt failed. It was due to broken terrain.
Broken terrain. Can you go into that?
They were planning to hide their spotter in a bunker.
Oh, okay. So they wanted to hide him in a bunker. I'm assuming it had to have been a one made on the fly, right? Because you can't enter an opponent's bunker. So it had to have been okay. So this is the one in Great March. This is the one near Swan.
Yep, the one in Great March. But due to the train being broken south of the Swan, they couldn't obviously build a bunker.
What was happening? I'm sorry. What was happening south of Swan?
That was the main attempt from the.
Oh, because the terrain wasn't level enough to deploy a bunker. Okay, that makes sense. Actually.
No, funny thing is, the terrain is level enough. Probably the ground is too soggy.
The ground is. Oh, that must be very frustrating. Okay, best laid plans, right? Well, so that might be why the Wardens were not able to pitch a defense around that spotter. Reminder, it takes 10 minutes, 10 uninterrupted minutes for a spotter to physically set the coordinates. So that would explain why. I believe max distance on you can see on binoculars is what, 130 meters?
Yeah, 130 meters.
At the very, very corner, if you really stretch it as far as you can, 130 meters distance you can see, which is coordinates. So that must be very frustrating for the Warden Navy then. But able to give the Colonials some reaction time and able to expunge the Warden presence before they could literally dig in. So the Warden Navy then claiming responsibility for the maneuvers here, the fake out, the juke at Drowned Vale and Lockmore, likely spots.
As well as at Marvin Hollow.
There was one at Marvin Hollow as well. So
yeah, Maiden fell.
Okay, interesting. That if there's gonna be a fake that I would suspect would be a fake, it would be Maiden's Vale, just because there's only a refinery there. It's at the very front of the line, so that can easily fall to a conventional attack.
By what I've heard, the Warden, that was so fake. They didn't even care that he was on radar or not.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, legitly, rumors are I overheard that the Warden was spotted on radar.
I see. So those watchtowers coming into play, it seems. Again, we're taking this information as we get it. All this transpired about 20 minutes ago, at most a half hour. Just a reminder as well that we do have reporters in both factions, and we do work. We do assign them appropriately, and we do take in that information appropriately, and we make sure to only share what is safe to share. We would not reveal the location of anything, reveal any operations, any assets, any positions of things that the opposing side is not aware of. So again, if your base is at the very front of the line and it's under attack, that's safe to report, because we know that both sides know of that location. If it's something way in the back line, something hidden, we would not share that information. I know we have a lot of new listeners, a lot of new people tuning in, and that's fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us here. Spots, did you have anything else? I think we're going to go back to Everett.
No, nothing really. But what I've currently known is that Fairmore, the reason Fairmore would have been actually a good secondary target.
Would it have been? It's got a refinery. This is conjecture now, but rather just strategizing. But would it be? Because it's got a refinery and a storage facility. It would certainly break the stalemate. So it's not a bad target by any means. Well, it depends on your style, right? It depends on how you want to approach it. You've got 4 rockets at your disposal, assuming you don't capture any more. Fairmore, that would break a stalemate, because there's been a lot of fighting at West March in the past few days. So a lot of action there, and a lot of back and forths. I believe the Warden's getting awfully close at one point. I think just outside the city limits. but the Colonials able to fight back with battle tanks. Both sides, a lot of battle tank action, a lot of mortar action.
By what I've confirmed on our side, actually, Wardens did not get battle tanks; they got silver hands.
Silver hands. That's right. Silver hands and captured Colonial battle tanks. A lot of these captures can be absolutely devastating on both sides, considering. But Spots, if you don't have anything else for us, I think we'll switch to some of our
Nope.
some other speculants here for us. But right. So well, thank you so much for joining us here, Spots. Appreciate it. All right. I think joining us now, we do have WARCORPS. I believe he is a warden, and he's joining us from the war zone.
I'm not in the front line now. I'm stationed in the back lines at the moment. I'm just here to speculate on where the ballistic missile would be launched.
Are you a warden?
Yes, I am.
So you're going to speculate.
I'm just speculating. I don't actually know the situation right now because I haven't been deployed. But I'm speculating that they would have want to find a strategic target, maybe a logistics town like the Baths, for example. I mean, it's got a seaport, it's near the front line, it's got a factory.
It does, yeah. It's got pretty much everything. Sure, well, maybe not advanced factory, but it's certainly a central location, and one that is particularly difficult to traverse, and one that is.
Oh yeah, that too.
You can break that.
I mean, Jesus Christ, Drowned Vale is actually a nightmare to fight in.
I would imagine. Again, just to know, to reiterate that
I've been deployed there countless times before.
WARCORPS is a warden, but he does not know. He is not participating in the operations that these rockets partake in. He will not reveal the status of the rocket sites. That's precious information that we can't talk about.
It's classified.
But so let's say you are in charge of one of these rockets. You've got a fully fueled rocket here. So again, this is all speculation, all conjecture.
All right.
You take it as it is. Maybe he's wrong. Maybe he's trying to fool you. I don't know. But in terms of where you would choose at the current moment of the front line, what target would you choose and why?
The Swan in the Great March would be potentially a good target because it's got an advanced ammunitions facility.
That's pretty much the crown jewel. There is the AAF, and that is the reason why Warden Navy chose it, and they weren't able to pull it off. But that is why they chose it. Yeah, I'm actually startled that there aren't any other advanced ammo factories. It's Great March, Deadlands, and the periphery islands such as Orebreaker, Godcrofts, and whatnot. They are not able to be entered in for this conflict, which means it's Great March, Deadlands, Reaching Trail. To my knowledge, there's no other advanced ammo factory. Is that correct?
No. I don't believe there's any other advanced ammunition facilities.
So those are precious, precious targets, and especially after the Colonials had that scare.
Oh God, I remember War 19, Morgan County, and the Spade.
Right.
That gives me flashbacks, man.
That was for those who are uninformed. War 19 was the war where rockets were introduced as well as the battle tank, and the very first rocket ever launched was a Colonial rocket aimed at Morgan County, now known as the Moors, and it was aimed at the Spade. The Spade, correct, and that was that home to the Spade has since changed. It is now
Spade used to be home to an advanced ammunition facility, the only safe ammunition advanced ammo facility in Foxhole in Warden territory at the time.
And that was the location. It was that was behind the lines, rather behind the lines.
That would be correct.
A Colonial task force landed on the shorelines near Spade with a light tank, at least one light tank, and they were able to get the coordinates there. And the Wardens were I remember I think the footage has been lost, but there was a broadcaster. Excuse me, who who...
I don't remember who the broadcaster
I don't remember the
was.
name either, and I don't think they saved the footage, gosh darn it. But they did... They were there, and they were evacuating supplies from the town hall.
I believe that a lot of the ammunition actually has been removed, so advanced ammo facilities aren't really that useful in this time. Because a lot of the armor-piercing rounds, the high-explosive round shrapnel, I think that's been removed for the most part for now.
I see. But at least back then...
I'm not sure, but can somebody in chat please clarify this, if that's true or not?
I wouldn't know. But I
believe... Hold on. Jeffrey, hold on. The advanced ammo facility at the moment produces storm cannon ammunition and rocket payloads.
That makes sense.
It uses 300mm rounds and warheads. And that's it.
Right, that makes perfect sense. And if the Warden Navy had...
But then again, the Wardens are the only ones who have 2 advanced ammo factories at the moment.
Mm-hmm. And again, if the Warden Navy had successfully destroyed that advanced ammo factory, that would have stymied the ability, completely deadened the ability for the Colonials to make their own rocket boosters and warheads, and potentially have complete asymmetrical ownership of super weapons here in the Siva Valley war zone, provided the Colonials do not capture any further advanced ammo factories, because I don't think you can make those items in...
Well, no, of course you can't. I believe at this point in the war, though super weapons are very powerful, I do believe the payloads are a bit underwhelming. Though they can be used to destroy important strategic targets.
80-meter blast radius.
Their effect in a war can be minimal to none, as we've seen in other wars. I believe there was this one war where one side launches rockets and it had little to no effect against them.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I believe the Colonials once launched a ballistic missile against the Wardens while they were losing the war, and they eventually lost.
I'm failing to recall what specific instance you're talking about, but in terms of...
I don't know the specific war, but I believe it was like 30... It was like between the 30s and 40s wars.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense. That's when rockets were flying like crazy. But back in War 19, the Colonials were so unsure of the rocket's prowess that a lot of the task force that was deployed to transmit the coordinates themselves were destroyed. I think they lost their tank and a good portion of their group because they were caught in the blast radius. I think they were transmitting the coordinates on the other side of a rock formation of a mountain, which means they could get close to the defenses, to the city of Spade, and it was too close. It was within that 80-meter radius, and then a lot of them got killed in the process.
By the way, you know what would be an interesting hypothetical scenario is that all the ballistic missiles in the game were just launched to destroy an entire region. I do not know if there's enough ballistic missiles in the game.
If you fire 3, it just destroys the region.
I don't believe that would be actually possible. But it would be an interesting hypothetical scenario if that was the case.
Okay.
I believe it would take about 1, 2... I believe all the ballistic missiles in the game would not be enough to take out everything in Deadlands. Because I believe the pits would still be left over.
And again, that's conjecture. That's just...
Actually, the pits, Iron's End, and Salt March would be left. Maybe Sun's Hollow as well.
Understood. Well, Warcorps, did you have anything else for us here?
I believe... Okay, so this is going to go a little off-topic into real-world weapons, but... Unpopular opinion, I believe that real-world nuclear weapons are not as bad as people say.
That's a hot take, but I don't think we have time to go into that.
No.
But I think we do have someone else.
I gotta prepare my Dead Harvest special, which is coming up next Zero Dark Hour.
Sure. Okay. Well, Warcorps, thank you so much for joining us. Always nice to have you on.
You too. See ya.
Well, coming up next here in our little event, if you're just joining us, again, the first Sirens went off in, I believe, either Fairmore or John Vale, or at least there were reports in Fairmore and Lockmore. But the very first Sirens here in War 62, the very first Sirens and potential rocket launch here in a long time in the Foxhole War, not since, I want to say well, it certainly wasn't around for War 59. So for a good long time before then, rockets have not been available to us, but we have had them before in these wars, and they are quite devastating weapons. 80-meter blast radius will absolutely destroy anything within that blast radius with no exception. Will permanently knock out any structure that is pre-built. So any town hall, factory, storm cannon. That's not even a pre-made structure, but observation tower. Anything will be permanently knocked out for the duration of the conflict, and will certainly destroy any man-made, or not man-made, but any regularly built structure, like say for a Foxhole. But I believe we do have next here Armagin, and I think I'll let PressCorps' Everett Way take the lead here. Colonial correspondent Everett Way here. So Everett, go ahead.
Yeah, hi there. So I'm back from about 20 minutes ago or so, and I found one of the Colonial veterans here that was at the defense of the Swan down in Great March. I was trying to get a hold of them, but of course they're needing to be shipped out to different war fronts while all the Colonial people are on high alert. I managed to track one of them down who had a few moments to answer a few questions. This is Armagin. Armagin.
Hi, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, of course. So
calling me a veteran is very generous.
Well, I mean, we like to watch what a lot of the Colonial players are doing, what they can.
Right.
And yeah, you're seen around a lot. So first off, can you introduce yourself? Who are you with? Are you with any operating clans, outfits, anything of the sort?
Yeah, no, I'm with Raid, and I do all sorts of stuff with them, and just kind of a generalist there. So, yeah.
Okay.
We're having a good day today, and yeah, there's a nice capper to it.
Certainly an eventful afternoon. So let's jump into the events, actually. What was the first thing that you and your group did as you heard about some of the potential threats that were coming along? Like, let's start at the very top. What happened first for you guys?
Well, like, we'd been gaming this out for a little while and thinking about kind of what an attack might look like, and so we'd given it a bit of thought, and I mean, at this point it's pretty standard operating procedure to kind of like ping a bunch of targets with the rocket and hope people to get to redeploy and use up their respawns. So we are aware of what might be happening, especially because we saw the pings at Drownvale and Fairmore and that sort of thing. So yeah, we were kind of keeping that in mind the whole time, and figured by the time the third ping came around that we'd want to redeploy into Great March and head down to what do you say, what do you call it? The Swan. Yeah. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
I spent so little time down there. I spent time in Great March, but so little time down there.
It's really far out of the way. You're not wrong.
Oh yeah. For sure. Anyways, so yeah, so we redeployed there and yeah, responded to the threat.
So if I can interpret some of your words, and you can tell me if this is a fair interpretation.
Yeah,
you're
go
saying
ahead.
that you heard rocket threats in the Drowned Vale and Lockmore, and you took those immediately as distractions. You didn't think those were serious attacks?
No, we were considering we were considering what was happening as it happened, and kind of keeping our eyes on the map, and so we weren't definitely saying they were not rocket threats, but we were being very careful about how we responded to those threats.
Okay, understandable. Yeah. And again, a reminder, you don't have to share any operational details you don't want to share. Obviously, this is a
totally
non-partisan news.
Yeah. Well, no, it's great. We got a good group, and yeah, I feel like our raid squad's always pretty well equipped to handle these sorts of these sorts of things. So, especially because, yeah, we're quick on our feet.
And that's something I guess reported around a lot of the Colonial sites. Not just you guys, but down in Great March. Let's focus on that. I was there and saw not only raid, but I even saw T3C, a operational designation, almost exclusively for Logi. Almost exclusively. I saw a lot of people without any affiliations there. So, how many Colonials actually responded down to Great March?
Yeah, it's hard to say. Quite a few. I mean, I think there were probably about. Let me think here. I think my numbers were about 15. Sorry, 1 second.
Sure, take your time.
Yeah, I think there were about 15 or 18 wardens that were in region, and so I feel like our response was pretty proportional to that. So, yeah, but looking kind of at who was in region just by hitting F1 a little bit later, you could tell it was a lot of vets that had responded for sure. So, yeah.
One of the things that was interesting about that Great March push from the Warden side is there was actually some bunker pieces and foxholes that were reported there, Warden bunker pieces and Warden foxholes. Did they have an entire base down there that was built up?
Yeah, I didn't stick around long enough, so you'd probably have to talk to someone else, but as far as I can tell, they did have some infrastructure in place, so yeah.
This is more of an opinion question, so heads up. How worried are you that there might be another attack on the Swan, especially if they're able to build infrastructure in that location and the Colonials are only responding when the sirens start going off?
Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to say. It's a pretty tough spot to get to. I mean, I personally have a pretty good idea of how they got in, and I think they'd have a hard time pulling it off again if my idea is correct. So, yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I don't know. I feel like to get the necessary equipment in there to build up a base and that sort of thing, it's not going to be a walk in the park.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah.
I'm going to have you with one last question. This one is mostly speculative. Since a lot of people, WARCORP from just before and spots before that, we were talking speculations on different targets for the Wardens to send their rockets to. Do you, as somebody who is actively on the battlefield, feel like there's some targets that you might be watching more than others? Like, what do you think the priority for the Wardens would be?
Yeah, definitely watching some more than others. Not gonna spill the beans on that, but yeah, definitely keeping an eye on things and how they evolve.
Okay, very fair.
Yeah. I mean, that's. I think I'd be pretty silly to say what we're most worried about and what we are keeping our eyes on. So yeah.
Well, a lot of the speculation has been so far on the logistics towns, and that is, I think, fairly clear for most people who are playing the game. There are definite logistic hubs that are pretty big worries on both sides, and the same would be true from the Colonials to the Warden side. The logistic hubs
totally
would be prime targets.
Totally, like you hitting an MPF or like even a double factory or something like that. That's going to end up hurting quite a bit. So, yeah, if you can, that's always going to be something that you're going to keep your eyes on, right? So, yeah, yeah, that's just kind of where that's at.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, Armagin, thank you for taking time out of your day to interview with us. We'll let you go here to
yeah, no problem.
the battlefield.
Okay. Yeah, thanks. Have a good one.
Of course. You as well.
Take care.
Excellent work, Everett. Thank you again. The PressCorps Colonial correspondent, Everett Way. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Absolutely.
Well, here's where we stand with what we can say. The Wardens have at least one rocket fueled and ready to launch at any target in the Siva Valley War Zone. The Warden Navy, or WN, attempted to target the colonial town of the Swan in southern Great March after several decoy targets at Fairmore, Maiden's Vale, and the Baths. The most likely reason for the targeting of the Swan is the advanced ammo factory in the town. It is capable of creating storm cannon ammunition and rocket warheads. As of this moment, this is the only AAF available to the Colonials. The other two are in the possession of the Wardens in the Deadlands and Reaching Trail. If the advanced ammo factory in the Swan is destroyed, Colonials, provided that they haven't already built them, will not be able to use their rockets, will not be able to use warheads for their rockets, effectively giving the Wardens control of the super weapons for the duration of this war. Given the information that transpired in the past, given the events and the subsequent information that transpired in the past half hour or so, the current PressCorps rocket watch level is imminent. That level will elevate to exchange once at least one rocket is launched, successfully launched, and detonated. The level will continue to stay at exchange until all rockets are expended, at which point it will land at the final level of depleted. There is no lowering of the rocket watch level until the end of the conflict. We'll try and stay on top of all this information as best as we can. It is very, very likely that we could see a launch and detonation of a rocket while a lot of us are sleeping, which means we may not be able to break on the air, but we will try and get that information out to you when we can. But until then, that's the information as we know it. For the PressCorps, I'm Jeffrey Jennings. Good night and good fight. Alert. The PressCorps rocket watch level has been elevated from confirmed to imminent. The PressCorps has verified that at least one ballistic rocket has completed construction and has been fueled enough to launch at least within its own region. If you hear sirens, you are within the rocket's potential blast radius. Rockets require manual targeting by an on-site spotter and 10 minutes to transmit the coordinates. If the spotter is interrupted at any point, the transmission will fail and will need to be restarted. In the event of a successful transmission and launch, you will have seconds to evacuate the area. The blast radius of a rocket is 80 meters. No known structure or vehicle can withstand a rocket's explosive yield. Evacuation is the only possible survival method. Rockets are not nuclear, despite their popular nickname. The environment will be discolored, but will not be hazardous. Gas masks are not required to traverse. Again, the PressCorps rocket watch level has been elevated to imminent, and a launch is likely.
You're listening to 121.5 WPRSS Sunhaven, serving the disputed Siva Valley War Zone. PressCorps Radio, a great idea at the time. For more content, including war story documentation, newspaper postings, and information on how to join the Corps, visit PressCorps World Headquarters through the Discord link below.